Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Hello guys and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about content creation, outsourcing, onboarding, how you can find the right content creators because it's a big issue. I often meet and face something like this because many of my customers tell me, it's hard. It's hard to find responsible writers, content creators who can create content that will provide results. And many entrepreneurs, they have no time with creating content. They need to develop, innovate their products. It's hard for them to share time with creating content. That's why it's better to cooperate with the best. And I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Ramli John. How are you?
Pretty good about myself, Anatoly. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm doing great. Monday, positive mindset. So I'm looking for a new week. And before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about onboarding in content creation.
Yeah, I'm currently the content director at AppQs. Prior to that, I was at Product Led, where I really was focused on helping product-led companies improve their activation and onboarding. You mentioned it earlier. It's a huge problem that a lot of SaaS companies have, not just SaaS companies, any kind of software companies, because it's really the foundation for a long-term relationship. I ended up writing a book called Product-Led Onboarding that became a best-selling book on Amazon, and I wrote that with Wes Bush, who is the CEO of Product-Led and author of Product-Led Growth. So I've been in SaaS marketing for 10, 15 years and realized that onboarding is a big issue, and content actually has a huge part to play in terms of improving that. So that's just a little bit about me and my interest on this.
Nice. Love it. I have a passion to read books. I love reading books. I share some time by reading books. Can you give a solid reason to read this yellow book? Because I see this book on your background. I know about this book. It's very valuable. And tell solid reason for my audience. Because, many books are great for if you have the problem with sleeping, so you can read before sleeping. You can sleep all night. Well, so tell what kind of benefits people can get by reading your book, why it's best-selling, and how it can simplify lives, I don't know, like to provide some valuable insights to go ahead.
Yeah, the main audience for this, for people who are actually working and trying to improve their onboarding, they have maybe an activation or free to paid conversion problem. It's very low. Maybe their retention rates are low, and this is a problem that a lot of software companies have. They would find this book valuable. This is based on years of experience working with Wes Bush and companies like Mixpanel, other companies that are even Microsoft and other companies that we've worked with that have developed a 6-step framework, the step-by-step framework that would help people improve their onboarding experiences. Don't take my word for it. Sean Ellis, he's the founder of growthhackers.com. He left a quote on it. It's on the cover of the book. He said that this is a must-read book for anybody who wants to improve their onboarding experience, and that means a lot coming from the guy who coined the term growth hackers. So definitely I want to check it out. It's $5 or $10 or something like that on Amazon. So it's not meant to be expensive, and there is actually workbooks that is and templates that is included in the book with links there. So go check it out for people who are tuning in.
Nice. Looking forward to read this book because I have a huge list of books that I must read. But of course, I put your book on my list because I want to know more about onboarding in content creation. Because let me share my story. 10 years ago, I had a team of copywriters. They wrote about anything. Today, I don't have this team because I got it. Each client is different, even in one niche, one direction. It's better to find specialists, experts who pay attention to one specific particular direction, and then they can create something new, unique, valuable. But many copywriters still rewrite existing content. They don't provide valuable insight, something new. They just replicate others. And Google can understand that. You can game for example, tools to share. Okay, 100% uniqueness, but you can't game Google, you can't game people who read this content, because it's like to read the same, I don't know, like the book with the same plot, or even movie. Many people tell, nothing special. I watched the same plot. So tell how to find responsible writers who can provide something new and unique.
Yeah, I think that's a huge challenge for any type of content team. It is definitely a challenge to do that, to have a fresh perspective. I think there's a few ways that we're doing that at AppQs. One of them is trying to onboard new writers slowly. So especially for writers who are not familiar with our space, which is around product adoption or user onboard, anything like that. I think what I have to do is actually, when I create a brief, have to have more of direct guidance, being more verbose about, here's a framework that I've been thinking about, and framing it as, here are some, even here are some people you can talk to get quotes from. Here are some experts. So it's a little bit more guided and directed for those kind of writers who are not familiar with that space. I think that really helps when there's somebody in the background who has expertise creating those briefs. I think starting off with a really strong brief can really make content stand out from other things. But we work with writers who are more and more familiar with our space, we can provide less guidance on those briefs, and really like just let them go, like, here are some people to talk to, but you have guidance on some certain topics, or you're fleshing out the details. I think those two things are super important. I find that for most teams, going with the first route where you have very clear guidance in the briefs would really be helpful in terms of leveling up the skills, and not just like, here's H1 tag, here's an H2 tag, but really be just think about, like, here are some certain bullet points within this that can really make this stand out. Here are some people you should quote, here are some stats that you should check out, and here are some places that you should get this information from.
Yeah, valuable. Okay, let's talk about the length of content. I see a lot of briefs that tell, okay, please write like 2,000 words because I wanna rank on Google, but it's not always the case. I remember when one content creator shared with me an article about the age of Elon Musk, 3,000 words. I don't know. If you type on Google, you can get the answer. People are not interested to learn his achievements, rewards, anything. They wanna know his age. Can you tell about the actual length? Because Google doesn't count the word count. So what do you think? How to find this length?
Yeah, you came up with a really interesting concept with Elon Musk's age. I probably wouldn't create like long content for that particular reason. There is this amazing content person, VP marketing at SparkToro, Amanda Natividad. She coined the term zero-click content, and I think that's that's okay there in that sense where you want to show up first and you want to be referred to by Google in terms of like Elon Musk's age. What I really care about in terms of length is value. I think oftentimes what I see is that there's an article that's 3,000, 3,500, maybe 4,000 words that they're trying to fit this very skeleton-based content into, and it's just full of fluff. And that is a huge challenge. If you're going to provide 2,500 words and you have very, very minimal value that you're giving to the readers, you're not just gonna annoy readers. You're gonna annoy Google. I think Google's been updating their algorithm with the helpful content update. They're really starting to care about that. You're not just the lengthwise, but you're actually, people are sticking around. They're reading through the content. They're consuming it. They're going through it. They have those stuff figured out. So what I really care more about is value per words. Value per length. And if you give me 2,000, if you give me 1,000 word content and it has like 10 amazing actionable things that I want to apply right now to my onboarding or to my content or to my business, that's more valuable, that's more important for folks to consume through than a long piece of content, a skyscraper content that the old approach and it not provide a ton of value there. So I think about it. Depends on the topic and also the how much value you want to provide to the folks.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I found one interesting thing that book offers are great by sharing stories. They know how to craft the story because today it's hard to retain audience to consume the whole content. I remember when Joe Sugarman 40 years ago wrote a book how to retain audience readers to consume the whole content, and he shared many great examples when people can't stop reading because it's interested, it's excitement. And you wrote a book. Can you tell your methods how to retain audience? Because even today most content are ignored. If people open, bounce for a few seconds. It's the same with video content, it's the same with big books, because only 5% of books are read. From your experience, how to retain audience?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think there's this concept that Wes Cow, she's the founder of Maven. She's an educator by ten. She worked with Seth Godin to create their alt MBA program, and she really talked about how you want to change up your delivery when you're doing a workshop. So one moment you're presenting a concept, you don't want to be presenting for 20 minutes because you're gonna bore people out. What you want to do is change it up. Like within 5 minutes, ask a question, have a discussion, then go back to teaching. Then after 5 minutes, do an activity. Then after another 5 minutes, do watch a video. And I feel like it's the same thing, same format that can be applied to whether it's a book, whether it's whether it's a video. Is the idea of changing things up once in a while. So what I mean by that is stories are great, but imagine if it's a business book and it's one long story after another, and there's no data or there's no change up with things like that. I think it can become monotonous and it becomes more of like reading Harry Potter rather than actually reading a business book. So that's how I think about it. It's like, am I telling this story too long that I need to change it up and show data or show an image or show something else? And that really depends on audience to audience, because how long they can, like let's say if you're targeting software developers as your audience, it's totally different, their attention span on average versus something like marketers, where I would assume that most marketers' attention span is slightly smaller than people who want to consume data in longer. Also the medium, like certain people like videos over certain audience like videos over another, and that's something that you need to consider as well in terms of the delivery. So that's how I would think about it, as like changing it up, figuring out if you're sticking too long in one type of delivery or one type of structure rather than changing it up once in a while.
Yeah, you remind me Jack London. When I read his books, he wrote them 100 years ago, and he can steal my mind, because at that point I can stop. I can read and then like 4 hours, 8 hours without eating, without anything, because he can steal attention. And I live in his stories. I can feel them on my skin. So yeah, great approach. Can you tell how to improve writing skills today? For example, if someone wanna jump on this field, wanna create awesome quality text that retain audience, and for example, I found some experts are great by sharing knowledge, but they are not great to retain audience. Okay, if you provide the most valuable insights, but it's not interesting to read, nobody cares about that. Can you tell about improving writing skills?
Yeah, in terms of improving writing skills, I think the best way to improve writing skills is just start writing and getting feedback. I think that's super, super important with anything. There's one thing that I'm trying to improve on myself is getting feedback from people who are better writers than me. And whether that's like being part of a writing group or, having friends that want to just review it. Having great editors are super important as well. They're great editors are kind enough not to break your spirit down so you quit writing. but at the same time encourage you and to think about like your the way that you're that I'm writing or sharing this. For example, the book that I wrote, my first draft was terrible. It was like, oh, this. And then I have an editor who is now the head of content at Product Led, Laura Klutz, and she just went through it. And I remember getting back the Google Doc for the first time, and it was all red. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm such a bad writer. But she was like, no, this is all just suggestions to pull out the story a little bit better and use shorter words and use like things like that could be really, really important in terms of that. So that's something that I've been really thinking about is like, whether that's, I'm asking my writer friends if they have any books that they would suggest to me. So I'll get back to you if they suggest a book to me. I know there's, especially people should follow certain people who actually are great at copywriting. Like one of them is Eddie Schleiner on LinkedIn. He's the founder of Very Good Copy. Like he knows his stuff around that as well. I mentioned Amanda Natividad earlier. She also came from a writing background, so she was a journalist and then became a chef, and now she's in marketing. So I think those following people who are actually really good. Another person that I can think of is Brooklyn Nash. Those are from Beam. So several folks that I follow that help me become a better writer.
Yeah, great tips. And you talked about Seth Godin. Once I read his review that he not review, it's like quote that he stopped reading reviews on Amazon of his books since 2011. Same. Yeah, because he can't satisfy anyone. He can't satisfy many people, but he has own audience. And as you mentioned, it's better to listen to someone who is better than you, because these people know how it works. They have experience, practice, and it's the same. You mentioned that your first draft was terrible. All my content is terrible when I start, and it's interesting.
Yeah,
that,
it's true.
I remember, I found one study that most content creators don't record the second podcast because they can't get results from the first one. They don't write the second article because they can't get results from the first one. It's terrible. Guys, I don't know how to get results from the first, second, and many others. It takes time to improve, I don't know, like quality, experience, confidence, many other stuff. So for example, PewDiePie filmed 100 videos to get first 285 subscribers. Then he got 110 million subscribers. Mr. Beast filmed videos over an year and a half.
Same.
Yeah, to got only 1,000 subscribers. Then he got 110 million, a lot. Yeah, so it takes time. Yeah, and
totally
it's
agree.
perseverance, confidence.
Yeah, there's also this person that I followed on Twitter, and he has 30,000 people on his newsletter now, and he was like, "Here's my secret. I wrote every week for 5 years." I was like, "That is a secret, man." And like people talking about like getting a bunch of newsletter is or what's hot. Like it's people are talking about Substack and paid newsletter with Lenny and other folks. And they're getting on the bandwagon, and they realize, man, it's about consistently doing it every day. I'm a big fan of Mr. Beast. I watch all of his videos, and I love this thing with Colin and Samir where they interviewed him on YouTube. And you're right, like every single week this guy posted, and his early videos were terrible. He even admits it. Like his early Mr. Beast videos were like, man, he looks like he's locked away in a cave as a prisoner. But like now he's this big shot. He's copying like big games, giving away millions of dollars, and Squid. He recreated Squid Games, like all that stuff. I think that's part of being a creative and a content and a marketer. Is you're right. Patience is the key. It's the secret sauce to most things.
Yeah, patience, perseverance, consistency, many other stuff. So yeah, I can go ahead. Okay, I have the question about onboarding. For example, can you share practical tips how to find great writers? For example, if you have no experience with that, it's not about experience. It's more about you have other priorities to develop, innovate products, and you wanna outsource someone. how to find them. Because, for example, okay, we can go to Upwork, Fiverr, many other places, but I found even people with great reviews, 5 stars, they can't produce quality content. In most cases, they just rewrite. Tell how to find them.
Yeah, I would say that you're right. Looking at reviews, there could be some fake reviews, just like Amazon.
Yeah.
And the best way to test something out on Amazon is buy it, and then if you don't like it, return it. There's not necessarily the same case for Amazon for finding writers, but what I would do would be to do a test project, a paid test project, where you give them a short brief, something that's not too too in depth, nothing too crazy, and then pay them for the time for that first test project, and then and then review the result. And often, if that they're what they produce, you have to rewrite and re-edit all over again. That's costing you more of a time. You when you're outsourcing, what you're hopefully trying to do is offload some work, not to unload more work like editing and like rewriting stuff. So that's been very, very helpful. It's something that our team at AppKeys has been doing. For us, there's a content team of 3 right now, and we've been onboarding other writers, and that's how we've been approaching it. Originally, we provided and asked them to write 1,000 words, but that takes a while. So we're asking them now to create a shorter brief and to craft it for us to see. And based on that, we can see how they write and how the structure is and how long they take. And based on that, we can provide feedback. In terms of finding those writers, it's been through word of mouth a lot.
Yeah.
Like finding them on social, asking people if they know anybody else through that. So that's been how we've been finding it at AppKeys.
Yeah, love it. By the way, for example, I love to cooperate with writers with proven record. For example, if they posted content that provides engagement, SEO traffic, shares on social media, it's better to cooperate with them. It's better to pay more money to them because you can save time, you can save money by getting the results with this content. So for me, it's better to pay 3 times, 10 times more to them, but you can get much higher results and less, but quality is key. Why you need to create 10 pieces of mediocre content? It's better to create 1 piece of the best content. Yeah, with these writers, you can do it. I have the question about common mistakes from your experience. Can you list mistakes that webmasters still do?
Webmasters are like people who manage the content on a site.
Who are trying to find writers and manage them.
Yeah, I would say that was the first thing that we trying to onboard writers. One of the things that we're trying to improve right now is when you're onboarding writers to your ecosystem, to your company, I think it's important to think of it almost like you're onboarding a team member as well. So like one of the mistakes that we made is just like, okay, here's a brief, start writing. But we didn't provide like, here is our brand voice. Here are our our logos. Here is the way that we write. We our titles are sentence cap, not all cap. Like things like that. Having an onboarding packet can really speed up onboarding freelance writers to your team. That's one thing that I see often is just you can't just expect to slap on a freelancer to a team and expect for them to produce great results right away. You want to be able to guide them a little bit and give them some direction with that. So I think that's a big mistake that I see often, and I've seen it previously as well at other companies that I worked at, is making sure that you're onboarding your freelance writer as you would with an onboarding packet. So that's one thing that I would say about that.
Okay, you mentioned about editing before. Can you tell how it's important to edit content? Because people, webmasters often ignore editing. They write, create this piece, but editors can see content in the other angle, with other view. Tell more about importance of editing?
Yeah, I would say the importance of editing is we mentioned it earlier. Like your first draft will not be perfect, will not
Yeah.
be the best of something, and I feel like that's why editing is super important. It's like you're getting your feedback from folks who giving them and showing them your writing and letting them go through it and see if there's better ways to write something, to communicate something, to communicate a story, to communicate data, to communicate an idea through this. And I think that's the most important part of editing and going through at least once or twice of a cycle through that, just because I think there's always a better way to improve. It's always about continually improving. That's my approach. We have and it's not just, and it's not when one misconception I had before about editing is like, oh, editing is just looking through your grammar and spelling mistakes and looking through, like, oh, here's a typo here, or you should have use all. That's not the purpose of editing. The purpose of editing really is, how can I communicate this idea better, going back to what I said earlier, so that people can get the most value as much as possible from what they're reading through it. And going through that cycle of editing is all about that, more value for the same amount of words, essentially.
Yeah, you remind me, my editor, once I shared a interesting text with editor, and I found 100 mistakes on Grammarly on this text. After the editor, I got like 150 mistakes, and I asked him what's going on, why we got more mistakes, and he wrote an interesting article for my course about editing. It's not about Grammarly, it's more about using the right voice, because tools can't provide all insights. Editors can see and can fix it. And by the way, he uses Grammarly as well, but he uses his own experience more, to edit content, to simplify, to improve readability and many other stuff. So yeah, Grammarly are great, but don't rely a lot on tools. Yeah, find another way.
Yeah. I find another thing that is helpful with like editing is you can edit your own work, but you have to forget what you wrote. This is something that I've been doing. What I mean by that is I actually learned this from, I think, Stu Fortier. He started like a Foster for writers, and he said that what he does is, like, you write something today, then wait 2 days, because hopefully by 2 days you've done a lot of stuff, you've thought about other things, and you read through your own stuff and like, this is not good. I'm like saying that about my own writing with the newsletter that I put out, like, where I can't necessarily afford an editor from my own personal newsletter, but I write it, reviewing it through it the next day with fresh eyes is helpful. The other thing I heard from a guy named Mark Thomas, he's the head of growth right now at Powered by Search, is he reads his content backwards. So what he does is he goes from the very last sentence and he reads it going up, so that he's not like like he has this preconceived notion of what it should be, versus now I'm like can I write this sentence better? Can I write this paragraph better? So that you're like looking at it not from the lens of the full thing, but from paragraph to paragraph or section by section. So those are some helpful tips that I've been trying to apply to my own writing in terms of editing.
Nice. You mentioned about inner voice, or for example, I usually call to be yourself, because for example, I see on TikTok, even on YouTube, it doesn't matter. Many content creators try to copy others. For example, if they can't sing or dance, but they're trying to create the same stuff without having passion, skills, anything. And but on TikTok, you can win audience even to be yourself, to create content in your strong side. And you mentioned this word. Can you tell about how to find your own style and not to copy your competitors, but considering your strong side?
Yeah, that's I think that I forgot who said it, where you want to imitate in the beginning, and then you want to, after you imitate, that's when you start creating your own voice. I would sometimes look at, you mentioned Seth Godin, like just the way he writes. Come on, he's been writing every single day for the last 8 years on his blog and newsletter, and I think just the way he uses shorter sentences and try to be more come across as a friend is how I really, really am impressed by that and look up to that. So that's what I try to do. I think reading a lot and looking at it and trying to recreate their voice. Once you have read enough, like you create your own like mixture or recipe or remix. That's a good way to put it. A remix of the way that you've been consuming others. And the more that you read how you want to sound like from other people, the more that you're able to create your own voice. And I think it goes back to like writing more often, like writing every day, writing like once or twice, or maybe even 4 times a week. I think it's super important so that you can craft your own voice and through that build it out.
Yeah, agree. So yeah, you can start copy others, but then if you do consistently for some time, you can feel your own voice, where you are passionate. Because if you just keep replicating others, you can burn out because it's not you. It doesn't make you happy. Okay, I have the question about AI tools. Can you tell? Do we need to use them today from your experience or not? Because AI tools can't compete with great writers, but they can today. I think they can overcome mediocre writers, who just rewrite content. What do you think about AI tools?
Yeah, I mean, there's this hype right now. It's funny you mentioned this. There's this hype right now from Nathan Bashaw. I'm looking for the tweet that he. Oh, okay. Lex.new. So he's like, oh, this is a great tool. And actually, a lot of my writing, like Amanda Natividad said it was great. It was like, okay, this is interesting. But, the way I'm going to check that out, first of all, for people tuning in, it's like, oh, okay, this is not a plug. This is more of me. Like, this just came up last night. So this is something that I want to check out. Lex.new. Something that this guy, he's a writer, journalist, and now he has a newsletter that has like 100,000 subscribers or something like that.
Nice.
But the way that I look at AI is it's a tool, and just like any tool, garbage in, you get garbage out. if your input to tool is not great, like you will get not great content. I think people, like that's where people say, oh, content writers, they'll be out of their job. Like they'll lose their job. AI will take over. I really don't think so. I can't imagine AI creating frameworks and gathering data and like connecting the dots. There was something that you need like a really advanced mind, person in that specific niche to be able to connect the dots together. Whether that's in my field is in product adoption. Like I can't imagine the AI being able to connect all the dots together to create something new, like a framework or things like that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that could happen in a future world. But at this moment, AI is just a tool. And like I said, like you need to have good input to it for you to produce something great. And I can imagine it. Yeah, I do imagine it helping speed up the whole process, but it doesn't. Yeah. I'm guessing also that you can learn your voice at some point so that it starts writing like similar to your own writing voice. But yeah, I think it's super important to train that AI. So I think that's how I view AI for content writers right now.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, 100%. It can increase the speed of creating content even if you rewrite from scratch, but you can get ideas from AI text generation content. So yeah, and can go ahead. Okay, I have the question. Let's imagine you started from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills. What will you do to learn more today about content creation?
So the question is, what would people do more to learn about content creation?
If you need to start from scratch, completely from scratch, you didn't write a book, you didn't have any experience, what will you do?
I would say that the beautiful thing about content creation is there's now so many things out there, so many tools to just get started. I think it's there's the word creation part. Just start creating, start writing. You can put out a newsletter, and get follow people that you admire on Twitter, on their newsletter. Get on Substack, and there's so many writers on Substack right now who are writing some amazing pieces, and they're not giving everything for free. There are some people, but they are giving some free content away that is really important and really helpful. For me personally, I'm inspired by Lenny's newsletter, Lenny Rachitsky, in the product space. Amanda Natividad, I'm really admire her. I admire Eddie Schleiner. So those are the people I look up to. And then for people who are tuning in, find the people that you admire and start connecting with them. I think that's the beautiful thing about Twitter, is that I sent a tweet to Lenny Rachitsky again, or Lenny-san on Twitter, and he's like, I have 250,000 newsletter subscribers now. What should I do next? And I replied back, "Oh, you should do YouTube." and he was like, "No, And then he replied back to me, he's like, "No, thanks. It's not my energy." So that's a cool thing about on the social platform like LinkedIn or Twitter, is that you can have conversations with these people that you admire, and you don't need the permission to do it because they're putting out stuff there. So I think that's like something for people to consider, is like, just find people you admire, read their content, and start conversations with them. And maybe one day, like you'll jump on a call with them because they admire you now. It comes full circle.
Even more, you can create podcast episodes with them. Just
That's
start your
true.
podcast.
I was gonna suggest that too. That's actually really smart. I used to have a podcast of my own that I needed to put on hiatus because I got a new job and I got a new baby. But you're right. Like, it's such a great way to connect with influencers who are busy just because they want to talk about themselves and their work and their content. So you're right.
Yeah, love it. Okay, I have the final question about the future. Can you forecast the future in content creation? What kind of future will be? Because many things are coming: metaverse, I don't know, augmented reality, virtual reality, Web 3.0. What do you think? Where we need to pay attention today to adapt to the future technologies?
Yeah. I would say the future, I think there's going to be, I was just reading a stat. I've been thinking about writing this thread around, like, how do you get your content to stand out? And I read a stat that there are 7.5 million blog posts that are published every single day. That is crawled by Google. And I imagine that's going to increase more. Like, imagine 10, 20 million blog posts a day times 365 days. That's like billions of content in a year. And the question that I've been thinking a lot about is, how do you get your content to stand out? And there are several ways to do it. Like whether that's gathering data or there's images, or people are talking about TikTok or metaverse. All those stuff are distribution channels for your content, like repurposing them. But I think that's going to be something that's critical as we move to the future, is whether it's a channel, whether it's the expertise, or whether it's the new way that you're communicating an idea. The challenge we're going to have in the future is we're going to have to cut through the noise even more so as we go forward. And I don't have the clear answer to that necessarily. I think standing out as an expert in the space has been really helpful because the people already trust you and they respect you. I think that's one thing. But like, can AI help you write better? Probably. Is the metaverse a great way to start distributing content? Maybe. I haven't taken a look at that, but still, something people need to consider. You need to start thinking about standing out and cutting through the noise to reach your audience.
Yeah, love it. So valuable. It's a big pleasure to get on my show. Tell our audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people can follow me on Twitter, Ramli John, on LinkedIn at Ramli John. I also have a newsletter that I just started called Marketing Power Up. It's on Substack, so it's marketingpowerup.substack.com, or people can find it on my Twitter profile. I have it posted up in all Twitter and LinkedIn profile. It's up there, pinned on my post. So love to hear from everybody by email or by Twitter or LinkedIn.
Yeah, nice. By the way, you can set up a newsletter on LinkedIn because, for example, you did it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have one there. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, guys, you need to follow Ramli on LinkedIn, on Twitter, everywhere. Learn from him. You can see a lot of valuable insights. Read his book because you can get a lot more value. And guys, thanks for listening and watching us. You can find all these links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify, and see you next time.
Thank you.